Hi there everybody. So we are going to look at some advanced tracking and things of VORs. So I did a little video before in a 172 of kind of how to track VORs and how to navigate using them and then how to shoot a basic ILS. So going to look at things a little bit more detail. Yeah, so the screens are quite nice in this and everything works as it should. I've tried doing a tutorial, like an advanced tutorial in an airliner, and they just aren't there yet. The VORs don't work properly. They don't show up even on the Airbus. As far as I can see, they don't show up properly. So we're going to do it in this, which is actually quite nice. It's kind of a good in between an airliner and standard GA stuff. So model's quite nice. Not sure if it flies like this in real life, but at least kind of everything works. So just going to put some cloud on because we can actually don't really want to see the ground. We don't really want to see the ground until we're close to minimum, so that'll do. So bye ground. We're now IFR. By IFR I mean instrument flight rules, and we are in IMC, so we can't see any ground or anything. So we're cruising along at 5,000 feet. And we're actually just to the northwest of Dublin Airport. And the reason we're in Dublin is because I am reasonably familiar with it, and it has a VOR approach, which you can see on your screen. And yeah, so we're going to basically do some VOR tracking. We're going to look at a few things that you couldn't do in the 172 that you can do on kind of a modern jet if it worked properly, because flight sim haven't done it properly, or in a more modern maybe the G1000 this might work as well, but it definitely works in this plane. And whenever PMDG and the like start releasing 737s and 777s and all that sort of good stuff, this will all be able to carry over, and it all works very in a similar way. So what we've done so far is we're in Dublin, and you can see here that we are going to do the VOR for runway 28. So you can see there's a DME associated with it, and it's actually based on this Delta Alpha Papa, which is Collingston VOR. So it's based on that. But at the minute we've got Dublin VOR on, which is 14.9, and that would be maybe to help you get on the arrival or whatever. It's not actually associated with this approach, but that's what we had on. We just departed into Dublin, put it on, so we can do a quick bit of tracking on that, get us in the rough kind of area, and then we'll fly out and do this VOR approach. So we're going to keep things as simple as possible, so we know that the inbound course is 279, and if we look down here we can see that our minimums today are 670 feet. So I have already, I believe, because I haven't used this much before, but I have already put in minimums of 670 feet. So they're there, and we're going to turn them on radio alt. So that's as you would in an airliner as well, so that's cool. So and there they are, radio altimeter, minimum 670 feet. Actually, that should be baro, sorry. That should be based on our barometric altimeter and not our radio altimeter. So yeah, that's really cool that works, because one of the things that was really frustrating me earlier in 747 and the likes. So what we're going to do now, you can see we've got Dublin VOR up. So we've Dublin VOR up, we've tuned it through the radios here, and where were the navcom? Is that where it was? Yeah, in here. So we put 14.9 in there, and we'll leave that up for now. So you can see Dublin VOR's up. We're getting a DME readout, so we're 12.5 nautical miles away, and we are. You can straight away by looking at the compass here, you can see where the VOR is in orientation to us. So you can see this arrow down here, and that's pointing straight to the VOR. So if we want to head towards it, which we'll do now, you know that you need to point straight towards it. So let's turn, and we'll start heading towards the VOR. I'm going to put the chart away for a minute. We don't really need it for a minute. So what we're going to do is some kind of more advanced VOR tracking, and we'll look at that. So So now we're swinging in towards the VOR, and you can see the VORs. I mean, we're only 14 miles away, so it's still quite sensitive. We're at 5,000 feet, the autopilot's on, and we're going to try and track in straight towards this VOR. So you can also see that we're very, very close to this radial. If we wanted to offset that and just show purely on the blue needle at the minute, I'll just turn this out to the left. And so you can see now that we're just using this VOR needle, just the one that tells us exactly where it is. So if I turn straight onto that, oops, wrong button, then we should start turning onto it. One of the things that we talk about whenever we're tracking VORs is we have a phrase, and that is push the head and pull the tail. So this is the head of the VOR, the arrow, and the tail of the arrow is the tail. So if we wanted to track inbound on the 040 radial, we would want to push the head over onto 040. So in order to push the head, it means you need to go on the other side of it. So if we had, let's say, 100, 101 will do. So now what we're doing is we're going to be on this side of the VOR, and then that's going to help us push this head around. So because we're quite close, we might need more of an intercept to do it kind of smoothly, but it should work out all right. So you can see so now it's on, what's that, 075 heading towards the VOR, and so we're on the 075 radial from it. Oh, sorry, no, we're not. We're on the this would be the reciprocal of that. So we're on the 250 radial, but we're heading towards it. So if we wanted to go inbound on a heading of 050, and that would be the 230 radial. So and you can see we're pushing the head around anyway. So push the head, and if you were coming away from the VOR, you would pull the tail. So in order to, we'll show that quickly, you can see the head's pulling around there anyway, so we would have intercepted that. So we'll track away from the VOR for a second. In fact, we'll just go overhead the VOR, that'll be easier. So now, because I've done that, we've overshot, but that's okay. And all we can do is kind of preempt where we're going to push the head to by the time we get turned around. So we're going to put on a little bit extra. So what's that, 030 or thereabouts, we've got it on, and it's just pushing around to there now, so it should work out actually quite nicely there or thereabouts. And then if you wanted to see what radial we were on, just give it another couple of clicks. Then you would line this up, bring your course line on top, and you can tell then straight away that we're heading inbound to the radial, or to the VOR, and we're on roughly, what's that, 210, so probably 218 or something radial. And it's just swinging out because it's getting really sensitive now. We're going over top, over the head, and you'll probably see all the indications swing out one side or the other, and this will swing around now to the left as we pass overhead. So we passed just to the south of it, and there it goes swinging around. So now we're tracking away from the VOR, and I don't want this course line, so I will pull the course line away. It's so slow to kind of do stuff on this compared to real life, but it is what it is. So now we're coming away from the VOR, and say we wanted to track outbound away from the VOR on the 010 radial. So we're now, at the minute, we're on about the 035, something like that. So if we want to track outbound on that, what we've got to do is pull the tail of this direction indicator for the VOR. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn left, and that will pull the tail around, and we'll start tracking out. So push the head, pull the tail, fairly straightforward. and that'll really help you kind of get tracking VORs and stuff in the direction that you want to. If you've got a VOR with a pointer like this, it's really, really helpful for situational awareness, so you know exactly where you are. So while we're doing that and we're pulling the tail around, I'm going to get us set up for the VOR approach into Dublin. And for that, all I need to do at the minute is probably need to have a quick look at the chart, because I haven't really looked at it yet, but I'll put a frequency into the backup, so 111.2. Enter that there. That's in the standby waiting to go in. And on this one I'll also put 111.2. I'll probably use that in a minute. And I'll also put Dublin as 114.9. I'll enter that. And how do I transfer that? There we go. So I need to put 111.2 back in there. So we've got Dublin active, and we've got Collingstown for the approach in the backup, or sorry, in nav 2, and the opposite ones are in the standbys. So I might switch them over later, depending if I need to or not, but I shouldn't need to. But you can see now that the tail, so the radial that we're on, is being pulled around. So it's just a handy remembered kind of guide. So let's turn back south again, and we'll get heading in for this VOR approach. So all we're going to do in the VOR approach is basically what we've been doing already in the past videos. We're going to just set ourselves up, and I'll talk about that. We'll set up for the VOR inbound course, and basically we're just going to turn on to it, and then we're going to fly the profile that's on the chart. It's really straightforward. So we'll have a look at this. So the chart says the inbound course is 279. So I'm going to switch the radios over. So I'm going to put the VOR for the approach on, which is 111.2. I'm going to put it on 1, and I'm going to put 14.9 on the standby, just for situational awareness. So at the minute we have DAP, and we can confirm DAP is the correct identifier, which is here. You could also listen to the nav audio, and you could ident it via Morse code as well if you were that way inclined, but not today for me. I've done it in the past, and I don't intend ever to have to do it again. That's one of the joyous things about glass cockpits. So that's identified. You can see we're 14.7 miles away from it, and if you wanted to, you could also have on nav 2, which would show you. The only confusing thing is that they're both blue, but one of them has you can see that this is a different kind of style arrow, but it's still a little bit confusing. It would have been probably preferred if they put one as like a different color, but oh well, is what it is. So now we need to set up our course line for the inbound course. So we're going to set up 279. This is really easy. All you need to have is the frequency, the inbound course, and you can do a VOR approach. It's handy to know, obviously, their altitudes for the way down and stuff, which we'll talk about now, but you don't, you can still fly one, not legally in real life, but certainly in Flight Simulator you can fly one. So you can see, obviously, we're to the north of the airport, so we're flying towards both the VORs. You can see that we would need to fly left or south, but if we were to intercept this, we would need to be going this direction, so fly to that. We've got our minimum set of 670, and you can see here our descent profile. So the descent starts at 3,000 feet, so that's one of the things we've got to do. So let's get down to 3,000 feet. So 3,000 feet set there, and we're going to use flight level change, I believe that is, which is the same as a Boeing. So we're going to take the power back. It's going to maintain the speed. Ooh, it really drops out of the sky. And we know that this starts at 12.9 miles away from the VOR, and we're getting closer and closer, so I'm going to have to turn left, and I'm going to have to go out to sea a little bit. and you would follow a star arrival or something to this point, but we're not doing that. Or you would get air traffic control to radar vector you to the start of the VOR procedure, but because this is flight sim, we can't ask for radar vectors to the start of procedure, so we're going to self-position, which is a little bit unrealistic. You would be following some sort of a procedure, tracking other VORs or whatever to get to that point, but we're not going to worry about that today. We're just going to do this for kind of our own benefit. Right, I'm going to go back to the speed mode, and we'll maintain somewhere around 200 knots. So I've just shallowed off the descent rate a little bit, added a little bit of power. You can see the trend arrow, it's saying it's going to increase the speed, but it's not really doing that at the minute. But hopefully whenever it levels out at 3,000 feet, the speed should increase slightly. I don't know any of the flap speeds or anything for this, so we'll try to fly it as accurately as possible, but yeah, we're not going to be anal on, this is purely for tracking VORs and how to do VORs, so we're not going to be anal on speeds and things like that, and flap speeds and all that sort of stuff. So what we're thinking about now is how far we've got to go before we need to turn in. So we're probably 12.9 miles is at lap no. Don't necessarily need to go to lap no because the descent point's not to 10.5 miles. So whenever we get to about 14 miles or something, we'll turn in and we'll make sure we're well established. You want to give yourself plenty of time to get established on the inbound course, because if you're not within plus or minus 5 degrees of VOR, you shouldn't be descending on it and with the procedure. So we want to make sure that we're established on that inbound track on the inbound radial, and we have set up what heading we need to maintain that track over the ground with wind and stuff like that. Today there shouldn't really be much wind. So then the other thing we have to consider is where our missed approach point is. So our missed approach point is 2.4 miles from the VOR. So if we don't see the ground by 2.4 miles, then we would have to go around. So thinking about that, I'm going to just make sure that it's quite tight actually. So I'll put that up to 1,000 feet. So that should be good. So we're getting out now, we're at 13 miles, so another mile to go. And we know what the runway is roughly going to look like whenever we bust through the clouds. So we've got all these approach lights, we've got poppies either side of the runway, and other thing we'll be thinking about is with our ground speed. So today our ground speed, say our ground speed's 160 knots, it's roughly going to be 850 feet per minute descent in order to maintain the glide slope. And then as we slow down and start configuring, adding flaps and stuff, we're going to have to reduce that. So hopefully I can manage this autopilot so we can descend on the profile, but we'll see what happens with that. Right, so we're already at 15 miles, so we're going to turn in now. So we need to put an intercept on really, and you can see I'm going to take the other VOR off for now because it's not giving us anything really of benefit at the minute, and it's kind of getting in the way more than it's more of a hindrance than anything. So so I need to keep turning to the right. Oops, I clicked that button by accident, which centers the heading. So we're going to put an intercept on this. So we know this is our inbound course, so we're basically taking a big chunk off it to try and head towards this line so we can get this radial to track underneath us. So this is what you would do. You put an intercept on, and depending on how far away you are from it, etc., you might have an idea of how much of an intercept you need. Normally ATC would be giving you radar vectors, so they would kind of have you on radar and they would know exactly what to do with you, but this is what we'll go with for now. So we're expecting to go 3,000 feet to 10.5 miles once we get on it. So we're thinking ahead about what buttons we're going to press. We're going to have to press vertical speed, and we're going to have to wind down the altitude window to our minimum height. In a Boeing that I'm used to, we would have, whenever we're cleared for the procedure, we would wind down the altitude window to our minimum descent altitude and we would have that all set up. So all we have to do is press a couple of buttons, and we can start descending once we get established. A lot of planes as well would have a course lock button, so that you can, whenever you're coming into the VOR like this, you would press the lock button and it will automatically capture that track on that radial, and it'll fly that radial down the approach for you. Not sure if this has this or has that, but we'll not worry about it today. We'll do it manually as if we didn't have it. So there's the heading coming in now, the radial coming in now. So we need to turn to the right to intercept that. Oops, I've just messed the whole thing up. So it was 279, I think. So yeah. And that is something that's really easy to do. It's really easy to mess yourself up, click the wrong buttons, stuff like that. I don't know why it's turning the wrong way now. Why is it turning the wrong direction? Heading select. That was my bad. Click the button. Right, so we're at 10.9 miles, so we need to have started descending now. We're actually on the course, but we're overshooting it. So, but it'll be okay. We're looking pretty good. We're within a 1 dot deflection, which is what you're looking for, and I think it'll come back pretty quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to go vertical speed, and we're going to go, oops. We're going to wind down our altitude. And we've overshot that a little bit, so we're going to put a little bit extra on. So we're at 9.4 miles now, and we need to start slowing down. So we've put in 900 feet per minute for now. Probably going to need more. I'll probably put in about 1200 feet per minute. We're coming back on the course quite nicely, and our first checked altitude is 8 miles. So we're coming up to 8 miles, and we should be at 2200 feet. And we'll start slowing down now as well. So we're at 8 miles, we're passing 2400 feet, so we know we're a little bit high. So we're starting to slow down. We're going to start to configure the plane for landing. So we'll put this first stage of flaps. And the course is coming back in quite nicely. So we're going to make sure we turn the heading bug this time and not the course bug. Seems silly having the same kind of bug for totally 2 different things. But anyway, and we're going to put the gear down. So gears down, flap are halfway there. We're going to start slowing down more. We're approaching 6 miles now, and we should be passing 1570 feet, which we are. So we're going to bring the vertical speed back up again. Oops, wrong way. We're going to bring the vertical speed back to about 600, and that should be quite good for us. So the next check altitude is at 5 miles, and that's 1250 feet. So we're a little bit low. That was 1230, and we're at 5.2. We're going to put full flap in now, and I'm going to adjust this so that we're doing a bit less rate of descent. We're going to add the power in. Alright, so we're going to maintain maybe, well, we'll try and maintain 80 knots, something like that. You can see that we're just a little bit to the left, so we're going to tweak this a little bit. We're going to go right a wee bit. And this is the thing about VOR approaches, they're never 100% accurate. You're probably going to come out one side of the runway or the other, and you can see that we are quite a bit to the one side. That's fairly normal, but look at the glide slope. We're 2 reds, 2 white. We're bang on. And that's about what you would expect on a VOR approach. You wouldn't expect to be bang on the center line like an ILS. So what we're going to do now is we're going to disconnect autopilot, and I'm going to mess up the rest of it. And because we disconnected autopilot, I'm also going to turn off flight director. So now we're going visual. We're happy that we're going to land, so we're going to correct onto it. And there is an aircraft on the runway, it looks like. He's turning off. We haven't spoke to ATC because it's too much hassle really in flight sim, especially for whenever you're trying to do one of these tutorials. But we're happy now. We're past our missed approach point, and we're visual with the runway. We're below our minimum descent altitude. Sorry. But at any point we can still go around and we can still do a missed approach if we need to. So 2 reds, 2 whites, what we're looking for. Just bouncing around a little bit in the wind. Or thermals. It's a bit more thermally than Ireland ever is. We don't have that much sunshine. Weird, one poppy is 4 whites and one is 1 red. Anyway, poppy and flight sim are very, very sensitive. Oh, a little bit off the center line. Put it back at power and squeeze it on. Lower the nose wheel touches, and get back on the center line. Very slack, and start dabbing the brakes. Don't know who that is. Standard livery. Could have made that exit. Not gonna try. Just gonna stop on the runway. So yeah, that's VORs. That was a VOR approach. Hope that was some sort of help. If there's anything you want to know, put it in the comments. I'll do my best to answer it. Likewise, if there is any other topics you'd like to have a video of, let me know, and we'll do my best to make something that you can actually understand and get something out of. And yeah, subscribe or follow or whatever you want to do, and we'll get more videos out there. Thanks.